Good evening, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call to order Everett City Council meeting of March 26, 2025. For information on council meetings and how to participate, please visit everettwa.gov/city council. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin,
Here.
Vice President Zerlingo,
Here.
Councilmember Fosse,
Excused?
Councilmember Bader.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Tui.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely,
Excused?
President Schwab.
And here. At this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Bader to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And at this time, I'd like to ask Councilmember Tui to read the land acknowledgement.
Gladly. The City Council wishes to acknowledge the original inhabitants of this place, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribe. Since time immemorial, they've hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. On to old business. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes for March 19th, 2025?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Seconded.
Motion and seconds made. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zerlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Abstain.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon, President Schwab and council and community. First, we'll be swearing in a new officer this afternoon, so I'd like to invite Chief DeRoos forward to introduce our newest officer.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I'm proud to have the opportunity to introduce our newest officer to you today, Dan Chaban. Dan was born in Chisinau, Moldova. His family immigrated to America in 1998 when Dan was 4 years old. They lived in Brooklyn, New York for several years until his father enlisted in the United States Army. The family eventually moved to Washington, where Dan attended high school and graduated from the University of Washington in 2017 with a bachelor's degree in applied physics. Dan began his law enforcement career with the Edmonds Police Department, where he has served as an officer for the last 6.5 years. He enjoys police work for the variety every day, and each workday can bring opportunities to interact with people in ways that are truly unique to the profession. Dan is excited to continue his law enforcement work here in Everett for the Everett Police Department and is optimistic about the long-term career growth opportunities as well as working closer to home. Dan brings experience as a patrol corporal, a defense tactics instructor, a patrol tactics instructor, and a firearms instructor. Was also a member of North Sound Metro SWAT team. While at Edmonds and in the future, he hopes to earn a spot on our SWAT team, Region 1 SWAT. That team is comprised of Everett police officers, Lake Stevens police officers, and the Snohomish County Sheriff's Office. Dan joins EPD with his wife, Alicia, who's here today. Together, they enjoy snowboarding, attending concerts, and watching anime. Dan also enjoys spending time with his friends, playing his ukulele, and working out. I present to you Dan Chaban for swearing in.
At this time, do I hear a motion to accept Dan Sieben as the newest member of the Everett Police Department?
So moved.
Second.
Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zerlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Dan Chabon,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am either a citizen of the United States or lawful permanent resident,
that I am either a citizen of the United States or a lawful permanent resident,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Everett,
and the charter and ordinances of the city of Everett,
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
perform the duties of police officer
perform the duties of police officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. Good job.
So welcome, Officer Shaban. We very much look forward to your service here in our city. And next, I wanted to remind everyone that the State of the City is tomorrow at 4 p.m. at Apex. It's hosted by our amazing new Everett Chamber. Due to capacity, there's limited registration. So if you still want tickets, you have to call right away. For those not able to attend Thursday, we have other opportunities to hear the state of the city. There's a free event, the community edition on Monday, March 31st at 6 o'clock at the Warehouser Room. That also requires pre-registration due to space capacity. And then, of course, we also have this available live streamed and look forward to sharing it with all of our neighborhoods. And then finally, I'm very pleased to present a proclamation honoring Black Wellness Week. I'll read it, and I'd like to invite Christina and Keith Blocker forward to accept it in just a moment. Whereas the tradition of Booker T. Washington's Negro Health Week has historically spotlighted health disparities in the Black community, fostering advocacy and education, and holistic well-being encompassing physical, mental, emotional, and social health is a priority for all communities. And addressing health disparities in Washington state, especially within the Black community, calls for initiatives that are both inclusive and resource conscious, and a community-driven approach focusing on leveraging existing resources and capacities is essential for the effective implementation of Black Wellness Week. Now, therefore, I, Cassie Franklin, Mayor of Everett, do hereby proclaim April 14th through April 18th, 2025 as Black Wellness Week. Thank you.
So first, we just want to say thank you so much. I always like to make sure to introduce our boys so that they recognize they're part of the public process to encourage their civic engagement. So this is KJ. He is 8 years old. This is Idris. He is 7 years old. And this is, of course, my husband, former council member of Tacoma, Keith Blocker. We appreciate you all. We appreciate your leadership. When we think about, we always talk about targeted universalism. When we think about the benefit of curb cuts for our community members that that need wheelchairs, right? We recognize that curb cuts didn't only support our community members that are in wheelchairs, it supported everyone that needed to access our sidewalks in multiple ways. And in the very same way, when we think about the power of this proclamation, it's saying, hey, we want to make sure our entire community has the opportunity to thrive through the resources, through the information and partnership with all of our community partners, there are health departments that are making sure that our communities are healthy. So I just want to recognize and honor you all for your leadership. Thank you for all that it takes to do the work you do every day. And thank you for working with community members like Keith and myself and our boys to make sure that each and every person living in the city of Everett and sees that they are reflected in wellness. You wanna say-
And I learned not to follow my wife, but I'll just say thank you. We greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here. And your courage and your commitment to service is extremely important. So thank you for the proclamation to honor Black Wellness Week.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming so much. And thank you for advocating for this. And thank you for your service previously on a city council in Tacoma. Thank you so much. With that, I have no further comments this afternoon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. On to public comments, which includes written comment acknowledgement. Under our rules, written comments shall be considered in the same manner as oral comments. A person submitting comments must provide their name and city of residence. Angie, do we have any written comments or anyone signed up to speak today?
Good afternoon, President Schwab. We received one written comment from Lori Olson, and I provided that to council, legal, city clerk, and administration to be part of the record. And we have two individuals here to speak for public comment. So if Jimmy could please come to the podium. And state your full name and city of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jimmy Castro. I'll be 77 years old, July 5 this year. I've been here since Memorial Day, so the 27th of May, I'll be 1 year in Everett. I lived 3 years in Lacey, Washington, and 5 years in Salem, Oregon, and I'm from the Bay Area, Pittsburgh, California. As you can see, I got the Aqua Sox jersey here. I'm ready for the season. Keith Lawler from the Mariners was supposed to come talk to you guys, but because of opening day, they're too busy. So I guess Keith's not here because I wish he was so he could speak. But we like the stadium being built at Funko Field. The Major League Baseball Mariners and Major League Baseball have a formula for building stadiums. The last 20 or 30 years, they've been very excellent. So we would like to get this stadium built as soon as possible. We know there's been about a 2-year delay. I've worked with the Aqua Sox office and I've worked with the Mariners. So we're going to follow up later. I just wanted to say that they're busy and then we'll get back to everyone. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, if Stephen could please come to the podium. And please state your first name and, or sorry, your full name and city of residence. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Absolutely. My name, hopefully everybody can hear me well. My name is Stephen Ray Short. I'm actually live in Tampa, Florida, but I'm the Senior Vice President of Expansion for the United Soccer League. Did I acquiesce to all of?
You're good.
Perfect. Thank you. I always get nervous in front of a microphone. It's great to be back in Everett, and on behalf of USL, we're excited to continue to work with the city and its stakeholders on Everett becoming a home for a professional soccer team within the USL structure. I think as we look at the city and its soccer community and those that we've met with last night and during the rest of my time in town this week, we're excited about what it can become, building on what's already here. And working on the multi-use venue is really exciting for us as well, as because USL also develops stadiums throughout the country and provides tremendous resources on best practices and how we can continue to grow the game. We know soccer is continuing to grow in this country. I think everyone here knows we're hosting a World Cup next year, along with Canada and Mexico, but to see the impact it's going to have in this region is tremendous. USL also continues to grow, impacting more than 200 communities throughout the US and the largest and fastest growing professional soccer structure in North America. You may have seen our recent announcements of the intent to launch a Division I men's professional league, which capstones our men's pyramid, where on the men's and women's side, players can start their youth and progress their way all the way up to the professional ranks under one umbrella, which isn't available in the US at this time, other than through USL. We've also made recent announcements of what a lot of fans have asked for, which is promotion relegation, which means that teams can earn their way through the different divisions up and down the ladder. We're excited to see when that comes into implementation, but it's certainly led to a lot of interest from our fans over the years. They're very vocal and we love to listen to them. And we'll speak with a lot of them while I'm in town and in future visits as well. We wanted to say thank you for having us. Thank you for talking with us, and we look forward to continue to work with stakeholders in the months and the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our public comments.
Okay, we'll move on to council comments. We'll start with Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, first, thanks to the blockers, especially with respect to civic involvement and bringing your kids along. I started doing that years ago at neighborhood meetings, and I think it's a great thing. It helps create that kind of involvement and engagement that sometimes we fight to maintain in later years. Also, welcome our new police officer. Thanks to the department, despite their high standards, very high standards, they are continuing to attract some great candidates. It's great to see the different cultural backgrounds, experience, and expertise they bring to this. I think it helps us serve our citizens better. So again, that's great work on the part of, I know, multiple people there. One quick plug for the Everett at Work app. Somebody recently reported something in my neighborhood, and the system allows the proper prioritization of these things. In this case, it was something blocking partly a sidewalk in a street, and I know that helps. That's kind of a high priority thing. It helps them figure out how to handle those things, also statistics and that sort of thing. So I'd encourage anybody, if you don't already have it on your phone, you can search on your app store for Everett at Work and download the Everett at Work app. It allows you to upload photos and problems and track those things, and it also allows the city to figure out which things are the responsibility of the city and which things aren't. So again, I'd encourage anybody to do that. I think I'll leave it to Councilmember Ryan, who was with me last night at Pinehurst Beverly Park, to keep my comments shorter. And then lastly, I met yesterday with a group on the Everett Link extension for Sound Transit's light rail line. This is work underway now on the biggest light rail expansion of Sound Transit, over 16 miles. Though, unfortunately, as we all know, this is going to take a long time. We're doing all we can to help them keep their focus on what voters approved and to get it here as quickly as possible, and to build on the big ridership success that they've had with the Linwood Link extension. So look for more on this as this happens, and of course, help us keep the heat on Sound Transit to deliver as quickly as possible, effectively as possible, and keep the focus on finishing the spine here in Everett. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Bader.
Thanks, Council President. Just real quickly, attended the council neighborhoods meeting on Monday night or Monday afternoon, late Monday afternoon, and great presentation from our transit department about the proposed transit changes coming up later in the year. They also talked about the fact that they're focusing on some things that happen, activities coming up throughout the summer. I think like City Cleanup Day in May and National Night Out, of course, at the beginning of August. So anyhow, good meeting, good turnout on the part of neighborhood leaders, and glad to be able to connect with them. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryan.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. On Tuesday, I attended the Pinehurst Beverly Park meeting with my daughter. And Mayor Franklin joined to provide an update to the residents in the neighborhood and did a great job highlighting all the great things going on in the city. And it was a great sneak preview for the State of the City address coming up on Thursday. I also wanted to thank Chief DeRusse and the officers that joined for the meeting to share updates about Lions Park and neighborhood safety issues. It was a great feedback session with the neighbors that shared that they have been seeing some positive changes in the park, and the park was really activated when we were there last night as well. So kudos to the team for the great work that you're doing. Keep it up. And then also wanted to share that the Pinehurst Beverly Park neighborhood is going to be shifting their meeting cadence to 5 times a year. So check their Facebook pages and our Facebook page, and also the Council of Neighborhoods page for their meetings coming up. And then also just a shout out to everybody in Everett to get involved with their local neighborhood association. It's a great way to stay updated on things happening in your community, on council, and with the city as a whole. So go check it out when you get a chance. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Tui.
I don't have too much today, but I just want to remind folks that the nomination period is still open for the Monte Cristo Awards, which I think will be in the fall. I don't know what the end date is for nominations, but I'll find out. Anyway, thank you. That's it.
Yeah, for my report, I would like to recognize a very special person to this council, Angie Eli, who is her birthday this Friday. And there's this big stack of flowers and a card on behalf of our council. So I just want to give this to you. Okay, and we'll move on to administrative report.
No report today.
Okay, how about our city attorney, David Hall?
No report, but we are requesting a 20-minute executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1I to discuss 3 legal matters with potential council action to follow on all 3.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move to consent items, items 1, 2, and 3. Do I hear a motion?
Councilmember Bader, so moves.
Councilor Ryan seconds.
Motion and seconds been made. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Serlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, we'll move to proposed action items. We have action item 4 and 5, and they've both been read in the record. Are there any questions from council on action items 4 and 5? Okay, moving on, we'll, both of those, the final reading will be on the 25th. Okay, on to our action items. Item number 6, Council Bill 2502-19. Third and final reading, adopt an ordinance amending ordinance number 4019-24 entitled A Special Improvement Project entitled Thornton A. Sullivan Park Floating Dock Repairs, Fund 354, Program 100 to accumulate all costs for the project. Do I have a motion?
Councilor Ryan so moves.
Seconded.
Motion and seconds made. Is there any questions or comments from council? Okay, clerk, please take the roll.
Councilmember Serlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, on to action item number 7, which is reject all bids received on February 11th, 2025 for Parks LED Lighting Retrofit Project and authorize a new call for bids. Do I have a motion?
Councilor Ryan so moves.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any questions from council? Okay, thank you. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Serlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, moving on to our briefing, item number 8, our comprehensive plan. Jennifer?
Yes, we'd actually like to start with what I believe to be item 6, which is the.
Oh, did I
first
miss one?
Reading of the budget amendment.
Okay.
No big deal. We'll circle back to the budget and then we'll do the comp plan after that.
7, 6.
Okay.
Council President, I think there are differences in a couple of our agendas here. That's part of the.
Okay, I apologize for that.
No problem.
So,
I also apologize. Everyone is.
okay. All right, so we will do, before we do our regular briefing on the comp plan, we'll do a briefing and proposed action item for adopting our budget amendment, which is Council Bill 2503-22. Is that correct? Okay. First reading, adopt an ordinance approving the appropriations of 2025 revised City of Everett budget and amending ordinance number 4055-24. The third and final reading will be April 9, 2025. And we have a briefing with us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. Heidi Berlantes, Finance Director, and joining me today is Jamie Lee Graves, our Assistant Finance Director. We are here to present the first budget amendment for 2025. I will be presenting the general government reappropriations and amendments, and Jamie Lee will provide the details on the non-general government portion of the amendment. The total amount of this proposed budget amendment is $39,121,068. Of this total, $1,457,571 is allocated to general government funds, and $37,663,497 is allocated to our non-general government funds. A significant portion of this amendment is tied to reappropriations from the 2024 budget. These reappropriations primarily relate to capital projects that were not completed by the end of the previous year, but have already been approved by City Council through plans and systems ordinances. Furthermore, most of the reappropriations and amendments we are presenting today are supported either by an increase to beginning fund balance, which comprises of unspent funds from the 2024 budget, or by an anticipated increase in revenues expected to be collected in 2025. We begin with the proposed general government reappropriations. These represent unspent budget authority from 2024 that is being carried forward into 2025. And this funds purchases and projects that were not completed by the end of the previous year. The first two reappropriations come from the police department. The first request seeks to carry forward $19,980 to cover the cost of ammunition for the Special Operations Group. Due to market conditions and supply chain delays, the order for ammunition was not received in 24 as expected, but the department does anticipate receiving the ammunition within the first half of this year. The second request from the police department is for $5,000 in unspent funds from the 2024 budget that will be carried forward to this year. These funds are used to pay light form film for developing police recruitment videos. The legal department is requesting to carry forward $4,570 in unspent funds from its 24 budget to complete services related to the department's new report writing platform. Municipal Arts proposes to carry forward $68,434 in unspent funds from its 24 budget. These funds were originally allocated for various programs and events. However, due to factors such as surplus revenue from successful staffing and fundraising efforts, project delays, logistical challenges, and other external circumstances, there are unspent balances across multiple programs and events from 24 that will be reappropriated to this year. Library is requesting to carry forward $19,965 in unspent funds from its 2024 budget. These funds are used to cover items and services that were ordered last year, but will not be paid until this year. Continuing with general government reappropriations, $499,239 in street improvement funds were unspent by the end of last year. These funds come from motor vehicle fuel tax state shared revenues, as well as car tab fees. The reappropriation will cover this amount forward into the 25 budget, and it'll be used for a variety of projects, including arterial streets, projects, sidewalk replacements, parking improvements, non-motorized improvements, traffic signal projects. It is also used as match funds for capital project grants, as well as the overlay program. Next, we have a reappropriation of unspent 2024 Human Needs Grant award funds into the 2025 budget. A total of $19,136 will be allocated under professional services to cover subrecipient agreements that were outlined in Resolution 8129. Additionally, there is $27,095 that will be used by community support staff for miscellaneous expenses related to client basic needs, and this is also in accordance with the same resolution. $47,896 will be carried forward into the street level issues flex funds, and that's in non-departmental 009 to cover a pending 2024 purchase order for fencing installation and other professional service expenditures. The final general government reappropriation is for $34,969, and this amount will be used to cover the general government share of costs to upgrade and refurbish the city's 10 fueling sites, along with upgrading the fueling data management system. And this is part of an ongoing motor vehicle project. Moving forward, I will now address the proposed general government amendments, starting with workforce adjustments totaling $532,152. One court commissioner is needed in municipal court. This position is necessary due to the implementation of the photo enforcement cameras. The labor cost for this position will be split evenly between the general fund and photo enforcement revenues, which are recorded in Criminal Justice Fund 156. The workload for our municipal court judges has increased significantly, driven by a rise in cases, an influx of cases sent from the county, and the introduction of our photo enforcement program. In the first 7 months of 2024, the number of tickets, both criminal and non-criminal, already exceeded the total number of tickets issued in 2023. Adding a court commissioner will help process these photo enforcement tickets and handle non-jury trial matters, which allows our judges to focus on jury trials, therapeutic court programs, and other administrative duties. One building inspector is needed in the permitting division. This position is necessary to address the backlogs in the permitting process, particularly due to an extended leave of absence within the current inspector staff. The labor cost for this position will be fully supported by revenues from development and construction permit fees. Next, interim support is requested in both the clerk's office and the legal department to cover an extended leave of absence and a planned retirement. This temporary support will ensure that clerk's duties and the indigent defense program continue to run smoothly during these transitions. We're also proposing the reinstatement of 2 parking enforcement officers who did not participate in the voluntary separation incentive program as had initially been assumed in the 25 budget. The cost for these positions will be offset by reductions in other departments, including maintenance and operation reductions to the fire department. These reductions will not affect fire or medical support to the community. While these fire department reductions were submitted last year, they were not included in the budget book due to timing. It's important to note that this amendment does not reduce the full-time equivalent or FTE positions in the fire department. These reductions reflect positive changes in recruitment efforts, as well as savings from some public outreach programs like Touch a Truck and some labor savings in the fire academy. Later in the presentation, Jamie Lee will also discuss our continued investment in the fire department, including a $3.5 million reappropriation for the purchase of fire trucks. Additionally, a vacant position in Public Works has been identified to further offset the expenses of adding back the 2 parking enforcement officers to the budget. Moving on to the next set of amendments, these all relate to grants that were not included in the 2025 budget due to timing. The Washington State Parks and Recreation Commission's boating program awarded the police department a $24,384 grant, and this will support overtime costs related to boating safety and education. The period of performance for this grant runs from January 1st through December 31st of this year. Washington State Department of Commerce awarded the police department a $15,000 Stop Violence Against Women's grant to enhance law enforcement training and improve collaboration with local agencies to better respond to violence against women. This grant also runs from January 1st through December 31st of this year. The Planning Division was awarded a $250,000 Salmon Recovery Planning Grant from the Washington State Department of Commerce. This grant helps coordinate and integrate the salmon recovery plan goals within the Everett Municipal Code. Of this, $75,000 will be allocated in 2025, and this offsets staff labor expenses for reviewing and updating the city's policies, regulations, mitigation framework, and other administrative procedures. An additional $175,000 will be available in 2026 through 2027, but this is contingent on state legislative appropriations. Emergency Management received an Emergency Management Performance Grant from the Washington State Military Department, and this totals $53,611. This grant will fund a portion of one administrative coordinator's labor cost, as well as the AlertSense Connexus notification system, annual cost for the department's RICO printer, and other supplies. Planning Division also received a coordinating low-income housing planning grant from the Washington State Department of Commerce. This grant will fund a work program focused on developing a strategic action plan for housing that's aimed at households with 0 to 50% of the area's median income. And this includes permanent supportive housing. The final general government amendment relates to the Traffic Management Center, or TMC, and this plays a critical role in monitoring traffic across the city. The TMC oversees more than 40 cameras, receives live feeds from the Washington State Department of Transportation, and controls about 178 traffic signals throughout Everett. As part of the Public Works Department's relocation to the Everett Municipal Building, the TMC will also move to this location. The move requires the replacement of outdated video wall components, central management software, and servers to ensure continued smooth operation of the TMC. This upgrade is essential to maintaining the efficiency and safety of our city's traffic management system.
The next slides are for non-general government reappropriations, starting with CIP 1. This reappropriation proposes to carry forward $15,515,266 in CIP 1 funds for capital projects originally approved by council in 2024, but were not completed by year end. Projects include the South Precinct controls and HVAC upgrades, Everett Performing Arts Center masonry, seal and paint, EMB tenant improvement project, and the main library HVAC renovation. The next is a reappropriation to carry forward $1,626,000 in CIP 3 funds for council-approved parks projects that were not completed by year end, including Lowell Riverfront Trail, Edgewater Park renovation, Wiggums Hollow Park Playground, multiple parks restroom renovations, Walter E. Hall community amenities, Walter E. Hall access trail, Loganberry Lane wayfinding and trail, Forest Park pickleball court, Kiwanis playground replacement, Jackson Park lighting, T.A. Sullivan dock repair, T.A. Sullivan disc golf, and Clark Park off-leash dog area. The next reappropriation carries forward $350,000 in CIP 4 funds for design costs for the Eclipse Mill Park project and Riverfront Trail improvement as approved by council. There's approximately $3.7 million to fund vehicle replacements that were not completed last year. As Heidi had mentioned, $3.5 million of this amount are for 3 fire trucks. The next reappropriation proposes to carry forward $219,831 in the Motor Vehicle Fund 501 budget to upgrade and refurbish the city's 10 fueling sites and upgrade the fueling data management system. The general government share of this cost were previously shared. IT is requesting to carry forward $566,994 to complete the following ongoing IT projects: serverless printing, court digital transformation, Kayenta upgrades, fuel infrastructure upgrades, courts of limited jurisdiction case management system upgrade, and PC replacements. The next reappropriation proposes to carry forward $7,500 donation the library received and did not spend in 2024. The city was awarded a $500,000 grant from the Washington State Healthcare Authority for the Street Medicine Team Pilot Program, which is part of the Emergency Mobile Opioid Team and Everett program. This grant will allocate $50,000 to cover a portion of the program manager's labor costs and $450,000 to establish a subrecipient relationship with a community partner who will deliver services aimed at reducing health disparities and improving health outcomes for the unhoused population. The grant period runs from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. This reappropriation will carry forward $129,318 that were unspent in 2024. Council previously approved the acceptance of a $4 million chemical dependency and mental health interlocal agreement from Snohomish County to establish a housing facility in Everett for individuals who are unhoused. This facility, owned and operated by the Everett Gospel Mission, will provide short-term housing along with coordinated access to substance use and mental health service treatments. This reappropriation will carry forward the $470,087 unspent in 2024 to the 2025 expenditure budget to cover the associated costs that will be paid in 2025. The period of performance for the agreement runs from October 24th, 2024 to December 31st of 2026. The city established 2 rounds of small business grants to support recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. There was a total of $16,520 remaining as of December 31st, 2024 in the Everett Forward Grant 1. This reappropriation proposes to carry forward the unspent funds to complete the programs in 2025. The following slides outline the reallocation request for the ongoing COVID relief program activities. The presented information has been previously approved with the remaining unspent portion amounting to $10.7 million. And then the COVID recovery program allocations also continue on this slide. Moving on to the last section of our presentation, non-general government proposed amendments. The first amendment proposes to increase labor expenditures in utilities to fund needed staffing additions, including a water quality analyst to support the additional requirements that have been imposed from the Nutrients General Permit and the recently issued Individual National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES permit for the Water Pollution Control Facility, and an industrial waste inspector to support the additional requirement that were imposed from the recently issued NPDES permit by the Department of Ecology. The Engineering and Public Services Department is requesting to add a building inspector. As Heidi previously mentioned, this position will address backlogs in the permitting division. Labor costs are supported by development and construction permit fees recorded in Fund 130. And this amendment provides the authority to transfer funds from 130 to the general fund for labor support in the amount of $151,791. Again, as Heidi noted earlier, the municipal court is requesting to add a municipal court commissioner due to the implementation of the automated traffic safety camera program. Labor costs will be funded through a 50% allocation from the general fund and 50% from Criminal Justice Fund 156. The library received $98,743 in donations, which is recorded in Library Reserve Fund 152. This amendment will appropriate the donations to spend on library improvements. This next amendment proposes to increase the motor vehicle and equipment replacement reserve Fund 126 expenditure budget for the following vehicle and equipment replacements. For engineering, $15,000 for a Stalker Radar SAM-3 radar trailer, $92,000 for the replacement of 2 vehicles. These are additional funds needed due to increased service body costs. $145,000 for additional funds for a large crane and completion of a custom build. For parks, $11,114 for replacement of a vehicle. Additional funding is needed due to a price increase. For streets, $60,000 for a steamroller to replace a 10-year-old broken roller. $65,000 for the replacement of two vehicles. Additional funding is needed for these vehicles due to a price increase from the vendor. For fire, $594,000 for a portion of the fire department's self-contained breathing apparatus purchasing, which was originally planned for 2026. This purchase is now expected to be completed in 2025. In December 2024, the Everett Police Department was awarded $34,720 from the Department of Justice for the 2024 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. These funds are designed to enhance recruitment efforts and address the growing needs for qualified law enforcement officers. The grant will support initiatives to attract diverse and highly skilled candidates to join Everett Police Department, including the use of digital marketing strategies and targeted visual aids, both regionally and nationally. The grant award period runs from October 1st, 2024 and through September 30th of 2027. As mentioned previously, the city was awarded a $500,000 grant from the Washington State Healthcare Authority for the Street Medicine Team Pilot Program, which is part of the Emergency Mobile Opioid Team in Everett program. The grant period runs from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, with funds to be equally spent across the 2 years. So $250,000 in 2024 and $250,000 in 2025. As previously mentioned, the City Council has accepted a $4 million chemical dependency and mental health interlocal agreement from Snohomish County to establish a housing facility in Everett for individuals who are unhoused. Under the terms of the agreement, the city will act as a pass-through of funds, providing a forgivable loan of $2.9 million in 2024 and a grant of $1,033,063 in 2025 to the Everett Gospel Mission. The period of performance for the agreement runs from October 24th, 2024 to December 31st, 2026. This agreement extends beyond 2025. Should there be any unspent funds this year, you can expect a similar amendment in 2026 to accommodate the remaining funds. Our final amendment is related to the outdoor multipurpose stadium project. In December of 2024, the council authorized the appropriation of $457,986 to cover the professional services amendment with Shields Oblitz Johnson for the proposed project. In February of 2025, the council authorized the appropriation of $200,000 from CIP4 to cover professional services agreements with Bailey Construction LP for the proposed project. As shared, these two agreements were approved by council through previous action, and this amendment will provide budget authority for those agreements. Additionally, this amendment proposes to fund an estimated $600,000 in project-related outside legal counsel expenses in 2025, which is a new request for this budget amendment. Building on that, we have Executive Administrator Scott Pattinson and Ben Franz from SOJ to provide council with a brief update on the outdoor multipurpose stadium. We will take questions following their briefing.
We have questions from council. Now, this specifically for this item, not for the rest. We'll just speak on this particular one for now. If council has questions for other things, they'll be afterwards.
Yes.
Any question from council? Okay, would you like to do a quick briefing on where we're at then?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie Lee, Mayor Franklin, Council President Schwab, council members, Scott Pattison, staff. Today I have Ben Franz with me from SOJ, and we would like to walk you through a timeline of upcoming decisions that will be presented to you soon. But before that, I wanted to provide a quick update on the MOU. We're still in negotiations, but we're getting very close. I expect to have a finalized MOU with both United Soccer League and the Everett Aqua Sox very soon. As mentioned previously, once the MOU is complete, we will be able to share the financial details, including projected revenue that will support debt service. Did I lose Ben too? All right, so we're going to go back a little bit with our slides and just walk through where we've been. September 2022, the city council and the county council came together and passed joint resolution to explore the feasibility of an outdoor stadium. November 8th, 2023, the council approved professional services agreement with SOJ. November 29th, 2023, the council approved contracts to do the SEPA EIS consultant and move forward with the project management and fulfilling the needs of a SEPA EIS report. December 2023, the council approved formation of the Fiscal Advisory Committee. October 9th, 2024, council approved the progressive design build. On December 18th, the council selected the downtown site. Also on December 18th, the council approved a professional services agreement with SOJ. Moving forward to February 12th, 2025, the city council approved a PSA with Bailey Construction to start the early design work to keep the project moving forward. And that brings us to today. Today, you have a proposed, apologize, I was reading forward on my notes. So today in front of you, you've got a budget amendment. The two previously PSA, as mentioned by myself and by Jamie Lee, professional services agreement approved on December 18th and a professional services agreement approved on February 12th, 2025. And then in addition to that, the outside legal counsel. Next month, excuse me, May into June, we will be bringing a funding ordinance for the Progressive Design Build contract to you. Around the same time frame, we will be asking for authorization to start negotiation on property acquisition. At the end of the year, November into December of 2025, council will consider approval of a lease agreement with both USL and the Everett Sox. Around the same time frame, the council will consider approval of the Progressive Design Build Team construction contract. And you will at that point in time approve a full GMP or contract to move forward with development of the site. As mentioned before, 2 of the 3 items you have already approved that are in the budget amendment, and the 3rd is for outside legal counsel. My understanding is that completes the briefing. Heidi, Jamie Lee, Ben, and I are here to answer any questions.
Councilmember Ryan.
Great, thank you. I'm just curious why the funding for outside counsel isn't a standalone ordinance or anything coming before us, like why, process wise, why would it be embedded in the budget amendment?
Yeah, sure. It's embedded in the same line item just because it is related to the outdoor multipurpose stadium. And these legal expenses are coming out of the same funding source, which is what we're using currently is Fund 145, our real property acquisition fund, and CIP 4, which really the main intent there is for new facilities and major renovations. And really, legal counsel costs are included in the exploration of the project. And it really should be reported in this fund rather than general legal, rather than offering a central service. This is very much specific to the project.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilmember Tui.
Well, I think that this should be, I don't like it being in with everything else that we've already approved, basically, and our carry forward from grants and everything. I would really prefer to have this outside of this budget amendment.
I support that.
How would we structure that in a document? And
Well, we do need a budget amendment to cover that cost in order to have that money to pay that expense. Whether it's included in this one or a standalone amendment is up to finance, I believe.
And I'm just a little bit confused. So this is the budget amendment, and in the 25 original budget, we do not have amendment number 1 for SOJ in there, nor do we have the $200,000 PSA for Bailey Construction LP. In addition to these legal costs, would you rather have them separated in the line item? Because they would still be under the same category within this budget amendment.
I mean, I don't mind having the 2 items that council has already approved, but this is the first time we're talking about this $600,000 worth of outside legal help. So I would like to have that separate. That makes more sense to me.
But just for clarity, it's not 600,000 for outside legal help. That includes initial relocation work of $75,000 and consultation with PFM, which Scott can probably describe better than I can, at 45,000. Then embedded in the remaining 480,000 is advice from a firm called Stafford. They specialize in negotiations with professional sports teams and the appraisal work that would be necessary to acquire between 14 and 22 properties.
So I think what I'm hearing, or I think I'm hearing from council, is because these other items, those other 2 had been brought forward in other briefings, that I know this is the first reading of this budget amendment, correct? Perhaps at the second reading, which would be next week, we could do a separate briefing just on the legal portion so that council can get just a little bit more details. I know the team's here to try to answer and provide those details today. I'm not sure what our availability is to do that again next week so that they can have a a more in-depth Q&A just on that portion and understanding. And then I think it is staff's hope that it would be embedded into this full budget amendment. We typically bring budget amendments and there's always a mix of new and old things in there. Just with this specific project, we wanted to be very transparent with council, what you'd seen before and what was new to you. But budget amendments always include things that are new because that's why they're in the budget amendment, is there things that are happening. But we can certainly have a more in-depth briefing next week if that would satisfy that. And then by budget amendment, by the third reading, I think it would be our hope that all of this would be included unless council had a change to make.
Mayor, I could certainly provide a little more detail now in the legal fees portion of this if you would like. I could also put it
Sure.
off until next week. So one of the main legal costs is for property acquisition. If we're going to acquire between 14 and 22 properties, depending on the final design of this, that requires a purchase and sale agreement with 14 to 22 property owners or purchase of options for each of those properties. And if any of them require eminent domain condemnation, recall how expensive condemnation of the Waits Motel was. Take that times 2 or 3. I don't know. We don't know yet whether anyone will require eminent domain, but that's included in the property acquisition legal support. The negotiation of MOUs and lease negotiations with 2 different sports teams. These are very complex leases with sports teams where one of the main considerations is revenue sharing are very complex. That's something that requires outside counsel. And then we still have to continue to provide legal support for the design build contract process, which we've approved Bailey getting started on initial things, so we stay on schedule, but we still have to negotiate an entire contract. If you approve Bailey as a design build contractor, negotiate that very complex contract. So those are all pretty big chunks of legal cost.
So what I'm hearing from council, thank you, Mayor, is maybe an itemized list on the things that were added to the amendment from previous approval.
Just
Okay.
for the stadium or the outdoor multipurpose stadium facility project.
Yeah, that's
Because everything else has already been highlighted through the briefing.
Right.
Things that you had seen before and new items, but
specifically to this multipurpose facility.
okay.
Yeah, and none of this, again, that's, I think staff's goal was to show you all the different actions that are going to be coming before you. Having legal advice throughout this process is absolutely necessary to protect the city. And so we will need budget authority to continue any of this work so that we can have that good legal advice to ensure to protect the work. But we can provide that itemized list. And Ben, is there anything else? You have a lot of experience in negotiating these contracts. I think kind of a little depth of understanding why we've got you standing here on that work.
Yeah.
Be helpful.
Thanks, Mayor. I think David did a great job of describing the work, but I'll just highlight a couple of components that emphasize the critical nature of this. Along with that, legal counsel is validation of core assumptions around revenue that feed directly into negotiations of the MOU and potential, ultimately at the end of the day, lease terms with the 2 teams. So that's a critical component of it, so that when we bring that whole package forward to you, the relationship between the potential revenue, the components that we need within the project itself. So the program components within the multi-use facility to support those revenue assumptions, and then ultimately how this facility is sited on the preferred location that you all have identified. All of those work together in a very complex relationship to bring you forward the best information around cost, schedule, so that you can make those future decisions around the project. So it's just it's critical work that's being undertaken, and look forward to an opportunity to talk to you about those in more detail.
Any other questions? I have a question. I think it's amazing that this body is able to be a part of all these individual decisions and a breakdown of how that process, this house process is going. We talked about this before about, I should say a point of no return or a no or a go or no go. Is there, just to kind of repeat, at what point is that like, well, maybe even though we're committed to make an investment in this process, at some point, we're going to make a decision, okay, we're going to commit to the total completion. When is that? Must be getting close to that point.
Council President, we still have a little bit of time. There are several steps in front of you that Scott highlighted. The first one in May or June is an initial larger contract with the Progressive Design Build team, and that will be several $1 million to advance design work, constructability reviews, detailed sequencing, phasing of the project. So that will be a key decision with material dollars before you later this spring. There will also be some authorization to begin negotiations around property acquisition, and there'll be costs associated with that. And we'll bring forward our best projections of what we think that will be. That's some of the work that David was referring to that's underway right now, again, to arm you with the best information to make those decisions. The last, if you will, off-ramp will be toward the end of this year, and that's the full contract, the guaranteed maximum price with the Progressive Design Build to start construction. So there's, those two moments this spring that will be material, but still a fair bit of work to be done before we bring forward to you what's the total cost of this project, what's the total guaranteed revenue that supports any debt service that would be required to deliver it. That will be toward the end of this year.
I'll use for an example, as you all know, I sit on the Sound Transit Board, and on that board, we get to work in billions of dollars, so it's somewhat overwhelming. And there's multiple decisions that we have to make in a project that takes years, right? In the coming, it might be even tomorrow, I can't remember, but in the coming I'll be voting on $50 million or so, $30 million for the design, partial design cost of West Seattle portion. That's a hard pill to swallow for the board member that's sitting in Everett waiting for light rail to come to the city of Everett. And so I ask these exact same questions that you're asking. When are those off ramps? Because, okay, I can kind of get behind authorizing the design, but because you have to really understand the full depth and extent of the project before you can make that decision. And through that design process, they're whittling away costs and trying to get it into a more manageable cost. And I asked, when is that go, no go? And that decision comes for me, next May, I guess, is when we will ultimately decide if we're going to spend multiple billions of dollars to build a West Seattle portion. So this is scaled down, but it's that same thing. Through this Progressive Design Build, we have to pay for the design costs. And through that design cost is when we turn the levers down to control the cost of the project. And then at the end of paying for that design and the legal work and all the fees associated around it, and possibly all the acquiring those properties. Then at the end of the year, the very early next year, you all decide if we're going to spend the full amount necessary to build the project. But this is what we are asking for at this time, is that all that design cost and the fees associated with it.
And that is a good point. Thank you for clarifying that. The positive of this is we really do get a good product and value for the dollars that we spend. There are some challenges with that because there are some upfront costs to get us to that point. But I think the value of the minimum amount of dollars that we have to maximize this is and the process we went through, I'm very thankful that we've been able to get this far. So we each here on the board, we have a large contingency here in Everett, and of course the constant question is, and those that might be watching, is where are we at? How is it going? And it's somewhat complicated to explain. Well, we're still investigating the process. We're committing dollars up front to maximizing your tax dollars, and at some point we're gonna make a decision to do a go or no go, and we just haven't got to that point yet. So I just thought I'd bring that up for discussion as we continually to get asked about it. Councilmember Zerlingo.
Well, it's a quick question. As I understand this, we spend more upfront in this design build process so that we don't end up in the situation that's so common where we do a design and then we send it out to a constructor or to groups of constructors who had no role in that design. And they say, oh, well, if you want all of that in that way, in that form, it's going to cost this. And we so typically say, oh, well, that was 30% more than we thought it would be. So I guess that is, if I understand it right, the trade-off here. We are spending some more upfront so that we don't end up with that surprise, or we don't end up in a situation where we spent that money and then can't afford to build it.
That's correct, council member. And I think more specifically, the exercise we are in right now is maximizing our understanding of the site that you all selected as a preferred site, the most efficient manner with which we can site a multi-use facility within that footprint to minimize cost, either through cost of property acquisition or cost of alteration, rerouting of utilities, those sorts of things, along with advancing negotiations with our two primary partners and future tenants in that facility to align those revenues with those costs. So those are all the things that are happening right now. And I'm really pleased with the progress. And I think we are all really excited to bring forward to you as soon as possible that work. When we do so, we also want to make sure that we're providing you with both clear choices and clear explanations. And we are in the middle of all that investigation. I'll take just a moment to go all the way down to the ground. For example, we're doing some initial geotechnical borings in the public right of way to understand the soil type, to understand what may be there. We've done a full mapping of all the utilities in the area, so we can understand literally how the sewer, water line, power lines, all of that flows. Those are material costs associated with the project that also provide insight into the ideal location of the facility itself. So we're in the midst of doing all of that work. We've just started the phase 1 environmental process for the site. That's another critical component that comes out and tells us, all right, what are all the things that we may need to mitigate and manage as we go forward. So that's the work that's underway right now. I mean, we are maximizing efficiently every dollar you've invested to date. And I think the piece that you were just discussing, the legal counsel, I think should give you confidence that, you know, if we're at that stage in investigation that we need that expert legal counsel, that should be an indication of how far we've progressed in both the thinking around potential acquisition of properties and siting, but more materially, how far along we are in negotiations with our two partners. We're at a point where it's not just us sitting around a table speculating. We're starting to think about how that will go into a formal agreement that will give you the confidence you need in the revenue that comes out of this facility to make those big decisions going forward.
Councilmember Tui.
Yeah, I appreciate the due diligence and I understand how absolutely important it is. It would be nice for a lot of constituents that have been calling me to have some idea, a ballpark number, what the total our upfront cost will be before we get to that go, no go vote. So that we, instead of piecemealing it every time, okay, there's this, do we have a number that encompasses everything that we have invested in this and anticipate at that point? And you don't have to answer now, but if you could get that projection, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. And we will bring forward to you not only a target value, but also options. If there's a greater appetite in the facility, you'll be able to understand exactly what those components may be and how they may benefit the public in the long-term operation of the facility, as well as ways to phase the approach to construction. So you meet the key needs within the means you have available to you now, and we build in opportunities for you to grow that into the future. So yeah, we'll bring forward all of that to you in detail.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate you. Right, so we had questions about this specific item in the amendment. Was there any more that you wanted to cover? That was the last one? Okay, and then so do we have any questions? Oh, questions about the other amendments? Okay, Councilmember Tui.
So I have a question back on the workforce adjustments, and then also that was, what's the slide 5 and then slide 10. There were two things that red light cameras were talked about. So I'm kind of confused because I know that the revenue from those was to cover the costs of the police looking at the films and then someone, a clerk, processing that. So I was a little confused why there was one on the municipal court side and then one over here under police, and maybe that's just the two different types of staff that runs the program.
And I'll speak to the first one, which is related to the workforce adjustments and general government amendments. So yes, hiring one FTE court commissioner, and 50% of their time is meant to be dedicated to the automated traffic safety camera program. And per what was passed by council, and what is allowed by state is revenues received from traffic safety camera program should be revenue neutral and cover both operational and administrative cost, in addition to future traffic safety improvements. And in a separate amendment that Jamie Lee had shared, that is where those revenues are housed. It's in Criminal Justice Fund 156. So we have to give that fund spending authority in order to transfer resources into the general fund to support that court commissioner's labor.
Okay, great, thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, good. And then we'll have another week. Oh, Councilman Ryan.
Thanks. I believe I was tracking, but I was hoping you can help me confirm. For the grants that have been received, none of them are tied to federal funding. Is that correct?
I would like to double check for you. So all of these did come from the state, but it's possible that they could have been indirect federal grants. So I will check on that.
And just so you are aware, I met with the lobbyists just prior to this meeting. We meet with them every week. We get notifications pretty much daily on changes that are happening in Washington, D.C. and are tracking all of those as they relates to our funding, whether it is direct funding to the city of Everett, pass-through funding from the county or the state, and doing the best we possibly can to ensure that we can spend those resources, steward those resources, and not lose any of those resources with any of the changes that are happening in DC.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? All right, so we'll have another week to ask questions specifically on this budget amendment. And I guess we have one more briefing, our comprehensive plan.
Yes, we do. And just a little transition while York gets up here and gets well, he already has it. He doesn't need a transition. He's ready. We'll just pivot to the next briefing.
Thank you. The red light, still getting used to that. Good afternoon, Council President Schwab, council members, Mayor. York Stevens, Watch the Planning Director, and Alisanne Wetzel, Long Range Planning Manager, following up on a briefing and some discussion we had at last week's council meeting. Let's do it so good. There we go. So reminder, we had the council early review package that was shared in early February. For folks following along, you can find all of the documents that we are discussing today at everettwa.gov/2044. At last week's council meeting, we received direction on the 3 top items with a check mark next to them. That was a revision in the zoning map for West Mukilteo Boulevard east of Sound Avenue from UR4 to NR. Paired with that is a revision to 6300 Glenwood Avenue. That is one parcel that is split by Kenwood, and that would be from UR4 and MU4 to UR7 and MU7. We added a mobile home park preservation policy, protect manufactured or mobile home parks from redevelopment into other uses, and staff will continue to flesh that out into the regulatory side of it during the month of April. And then we had a couple of other topics that we began discussion on but did not have resolution. So we're back this afternoon to cover those. I will go through each one of these, has a slide with a map that we can talk about. In the printout that I gave you, I had forgotten about 2506 Wetmore and 2701 Hoyt. So those are on the screen, but you won't see them in the printout that you have. Okay, great. Councilmember Fosse mentioned some parcels around Wiggum's Hollow. I think she spotted an error as far as I can tell from our conversations and staff. This was around the Park District boundary and where it started and ended, and I think we just got the line a little bit farther north than it should have been. So this is Everett Housing Authority owned property. It is also a portion of Wiggum's Hollow Park that is owned by Everett Housing Authority. We have an interlocal agreement to operate it as a park, and this was a subject of conversation as part of last year's park district. There's a strong desire in the community to get that into park use eventually. This also includes the existing Wiggum's Park Place development. So staff's proposal is just to correct that back to UR4, which is equivalent to what it is today. If we wanted to change the zoning, we could, but just wanted to clarify that that was not staff's intent to make that change, and it does not overlap with any of the standard geographies that drove our changes in the zoning map. So if this works, we will plan to incorporate this one into the council member, into the comprehensive the zoning map as a correction. These were two that we started discussion on last week. The first is a series of parcels from 2506 to 2606 Wetmore Avenue. It is currently zoned UR7. It is just south of Everett High School, although it does not include two parcels directly on 25th, so the ones that are closest to Everett High. The rest of those would be proposed to be revised from UR7 to MU15. And I don't know if we want to walk through all of these and then turn back to them. I can brief them all and then we can
brief them all. We'll have questions. Thank you. Good point.
Great. Then we have 2701 Hoyt. I had the wrong address on there last week, and that is a parking lot across the street from the Everett Municipal Library. Everett Public Library. Councilmember Zarlingo had some questions and discussion around the 19th Ave Southeast and SR 527 corridor. Some concern with the higher heights on this. It's a road that has some offset intersections and some challenging traffic connections and some congestion and some trouble that folks sometimes have navigating the curve at Silver Lake, and then sharp transition in places between taller buildings and houses. I did want to note we're wrapping up a draft of the transportation element, and there is a financially constrained project list in there that is with either regional projects or local projects that we expect to be achievable in the planning period with projected revenues. And for the Silver Lake area, that includes a new community transit bus rapid transit line going up SR 527 and getting to Casino Road. The exact routing is to be determined. We have a new east-west arterial and I-5 crossing at 100th. We have intersection projects at 112th and 110th. Both of those respond to predicted congestion from the plan that was exceeding our level of service standards. So it is true that we anticipate some problems at those intersections, although we do have in the plan at least some projects that might be able to help. And then a Silver Lake Road and 121st walking and rolling pathways. So I just wanted to give that context. We've also received a comment letter from Bethany Northwest requesting that their property be increased from UR4 to UR7, urban residential 4 floors to 7 floors. There's an outline of the Bethany properties. Staff's suggestion at this point would be to include a series of small parcels on Lake Heights Drive included in that. And I believe Councilmember Zarlingo agrees and would be the sponsor of this revision, and that would be paired with the reduction of the MU15 zoned parcels between 100th and 128th from MU15 to, that should probably say MU7, not UR7. And then increasing the Bethany Northwest property and Lake Heights Drive from UR4 to UR7. A couple council members have brought up some zones where we go abruptly from UR15 or MU15 or UR7 down to a neighborhood residential zone. And there were a couple of parcels here. Councilmember Bader wanted to do some work with staff before we brought this up with the council. For all of these, this is not the last word. This is defining what we will get into the state as a complete first draft, but there will be other opportunities for the council to make amendments. So I will skip over all of these ones, and we have neighborhood commercial then. Neighborhood commercial, there was some discussion around potentially limiting the corner parcels on which it would be allowed. Alice-Ann went and took some pictures of a couple of examples of buildings or businesses that fit the mold of what we're expecting with neighborhood commercial. So these are small scale buildings. The list of uses and everything would be defined for neighborhood serving types of businesses. Currently, as crafted, the neighborhood commercial framework would allow a set of uses that are neighborhood serving on corner lots of public streets, as well as in buildings that have historically been used for and built for commercial. Even if those are not on a corner lot. And then we also have West Casino Road and a portion of the Lowell neighborhood that we talked about last week that are special and may warrant neighborhood commercial, even not on a corner. This is a list of the uses that would be allowed subject to development standards that are on the next slide. I'm going quickly because I think we talked about this last week. Outdoor uses such as a patio would be subject to an administrative use permit and conditions to ensure compliance with neighbors, compatibility with neighbors. Minimum front side street setbacks would be reduced to 2 feet. Maximum front setback of 20 feet, so no parking and 7-Eleven style shopping in these. No minimum off-street parking required. Hours of operation limited to 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. and a reference to the noise code that would limit any sort of noise coming off of one of these into neighboring properties. And that includes a reduction at 10 p.m. of 10 decibels down. I think it's from 45 to 35, or maybe it's 55 to 45 at 10 p.m. So you'd have to start quieting down for your last hour and then close up completely at 11 p.m. And then there was some discussion about potentially restricting the corner lots that would be in play here to those that are on arterials. Here is a map of the city arterials. This includes principal, collector, and minor arterials, which are all of the different types that we have in the city. There are a couple that seem missing off of this map, 100th, Walnut, and a section of Federal. We are checking with Public Works to see if there's any story behind that. Regardless of that answer, if we wanted to add those or any other street that's not an arterial, we could do so. There's other things that we can do that are midway between restricting to arterials and the current proposal, such as potentially including a 500-foot buffer. So the next couple blocks off of each given arterial. Any other option is available to you. This is something, and this goes for everything too, we can send it to the state and keep working on this if this is an item that we want to keep working and don't need to make a decision today.
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Yes.
The blue, Councilmember Ryan, you had asked for going 2 blocks on either side. The blue takes that out approximately 2 blocks. So the lines in the center are the actual collectors. The blue would be what would be the difference. And I do have big maps that I can hand people when you're ready.
So that's it. I'll run back to the beginning.
Is there any questions on council? Maybe we could start off with like specific slides or zoning areas or specific locations you have questions or want to make comments about. Okay. But Councilmember Ryan.
For the Wiggums correction, I would defer till Councilor Fossey is available to comment on it to make sure it's in line with what she saw on the map and what the neighbor's been asking for.
Do you note, is there any red flags at this point on it? Just want to confirm with her, right?
Right.
Yeah, okay, good. Because I think that's important for the staff too, is they want to know, hey, if there is roadblocks or something we need to work through, not just further affirmation, but if there's something else they need to provide more research and work for. I think that's, if we can provide that today too for them.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, yep, good. Next, anything else? Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna go down the line here and
Sure.
I think that council members, Arlingo brought up some really good things on the 19th Avenue corridor area, potential heavy congestion and confusion. So I would like to see us try to figure that one out. I don't know if staff feels good with this change that you have, or does more need to happen?
We talked a little bit about more of a kind of a detailed map. I guess you have it here. It's
Yeah, one of the clarifications was whether it was on both sides of the road or one side, and I think Councilmember Zarlingo was interested in both sides. We also, I think last time we're talking about Burley Drive, and now that area is from 100th to the north to 128th, which is the edge of the Safeway anchored shopping center on 130th. 132nd at that point, I think. The Bethany thing is new as well.
Maybe a comment or two, but go ahead. Councilmember Bader.
Well,
yeah, well, first of all, thanks for the follow-up on this and for all the work that you and Alice and the staff have done. There's a lot to boil down from the discussions last week. And I do want to say, before I forget about it, that I appreciate the different perspectives and the stuff that each of the different council members have brought. Maybe it's a testimony for the benefits of districting in the council member situation, because we get a lot more input on this that helps us do this right at this stage. And with respect to the difficulties that the lake and historic development there has posed, just this morning, there was another car that had gone off the road, crossed the sidewalk, crossed our Silver Lake Loop Trail, and gone within a foot or so of the lake. The bumper there stopped by the brush. So it's a tricky one. I guess we just have to acknowledge a certain amount of difficulty there and do what we can to avoid problems. Also happy then that we've identified a couple of zones where we can maintain that higher, those higher heights and the higher development possibilities, where the surrounding area will support that, the surrounding traffic, and hopefully eventually the Swift buses. And we can hope for 100th Street connecting through. So those zones, I think we've come to a pretty clear identification of where we can do that, and then where we'll keep the rest of that as MU7. And then with respect, I did want to make a remark about the area in the around Bethany. They run both a nursing home and a assisted living facility there. There's memory care residents nearby. I think those are ones where a modest increase in that density and height from the previous plan is a good one. It helps compensate for not having as much density in some other spots. But also those are things that serve populations that we are increasingly going to need to serve. Right now, from the demographic stuff that I understand, the growth in the elderly population is going to be faster than a lot of our younger population. And those are people who really benefit the most by local, denser services, shopping, medical services, and that sort of thing. And then those also conveniently are groups that are going to generate less trips per person, per resident. So that whole thing seems to me to be coming together to support the maximum density that I think that can work and make some increased and beneficial trade-offs here. So I am comfortable now with what the changes we made.
Councilmember Bader.
Real quick, currently, what is the zoning along Lake Heights Drive there?
I don't know, and I don't have a computer because it's in use. Alice Ann may be able to take a look.
What?
I'm not going to guess.
Okay, no problem. I was just wondering, given I think it's residential on this, it feels single family residential on the south side there, and that whole emphasis on transition, from that. And then the other question I had, I mean, obviously the Bethany property looks like that jigsaw puzzle piece that I couldn't make fit, but, and so wondering if it kind of looks like Bethany is, as properties become available, is kind of, trying to buy property along that. Or one, are we setting ourselves up for Bethany to come back to us in a couple of years after they buy 2 or 3 more parcels of property to get those up to UR7? And then second would be, if that's the case, how do we deal with that? It's just kind of amendment as they come through each year, or
What the dashed line would include the parcels on Lake Heights Drive. So in that way, the whole area would be zoned the same. Folks other than Bethany would be able to develop their property or aggregate it if they wanted to, or of course stay as long as they wanted. If Bethany were to assemble the entire property, they would be able to make use of that. We could go either way.
Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you. For this corridor, were we able to determine what the new delta would be for downzoning? Like how, if we would still be able to meet our target goals, and, or if there's another place that needs to balance that out?
Yeah. When we last did the land capacity analysis on the alternatives, alternatives 2 and 3 were both right around our target. It depends a little bit on the assumptions that you make, and you can make less and less realistic assumptions and find more and more capacity. So it is never going to be a very clear, this is your exact number. We will redo the land capacity analysis once this map is settled, so that we will do the check and we'll know if we need to make any changes at that point to satisfy the state and regional requirements around the growth targets. I feel like, and this is just the feeling, but all of these changes, both that have been made prior to these council meetings and then within these council meetings, are in the realm of leaving us with the right amount of capacity, but we will run that analysis and double check. And we have an answer. R1 are those properties at okay.
Thanks. And then thanks too for mentioning about the corridor improvements, and especially bus rapid transit. I was curious if bus rapid transit and these intersection improvements are reliant on the zoning going up to UR15.
I don't
Or
think
if they were expecting that to happen, and that's why bus rapid transit's coming to that corridor, or why intersection improvements were happening as well.
This is from Community Transit's long-range planning work that predates this planning effort. I think in their work, and maybe in the Snohomish countywide system, there are transit emphasis corridors designated, and I bet that 19th is one of those. So there's kind of a back and forth expectation of more growth, which benefits from the expectation of more transit, and there would certainly be better ridership and better performance and everything the more housing there is on there. You got to get the buses through, so traffic congestion doesn't help or is a challenge as well there. I don't think that it would be successes predicated on the 15 floors, but it would help. I don't think success would be not in the cards at 7.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is there a few more slides here that we need to review? And
we've been through them all once, so
okay.
And staff can operate on consensus or voting in terms of direction from the council on any individual one of these.
Yeah, Councilmember Bader.
I assume Councilmember Zarling will be making a motion on this, but I'd be happy to support.
Yes, I'm ready to make a motion to move forward on this. I think the questions at this stage that we're at, are ready to move forward from my standpoint, but I'd like to.
Well, there might be some particular places like Wiggins Hollow or some that we can always make adjustments later, of course. But I think the direction here is to move forward on the current proposal from council.
On the full slate that was on that,
We didn't discuss the Wetmore property, the
Right.
White property.
Okay, let's go ahead. You have questions?
And I thought we were gonna wait on Wiggums to receive confirmation from Councilmember Fosse.
Okay,
So you have the clarity you need then. Sorry, go ahead.
yes, go ahead, Councilman Ryan.
thank you. For the Wetmore property, the block, I'm not comfortable moving that one forward. I think we should be prioritizing infill housing, not displacing people. So I would vote against it if it did come up for a vote, but you had mentioned that there were two properties that weren't going to be included, which I assume is I think there's like a little apartment building that's there now. It looks historic. It looks amazing with all the brickwork. Maybe some houses too, but
that roof and that roof.
oh, those two. Okay.
Those two are not
All right.
included. From about here down and including this parking lot is the area.
Right. Yeah, if council wants to bring it to a vote, that's fine, but I would be voting against it.
And what is it now? What is it, what is the rank on it now?
The zone, it's within Metro Everett, so it is probably 6 or 7 mid-rise. would be my
U7.
guess.
So they could go to 7 now and it's,
Oh, and proposed currently is UR7
okay.
is what that golden.
And they're single family homes right now.
Correct,
So they could either go 7 or higher.
right.
Yeah.
Councilman Reader.
And just to clarify, I mean, right now, at this moment, before we adopt the comp plan, what's the zoning right there? Sorry to put you on the spot. Okay. Because I assume it's higher zone than single family and I don't know if it makes it, the proposal right now is to make it uniform along north between 25th and 24th, except for those, or excuse me, 25th and 26th, except for those two houses at the north that along that corridor on between 24th and 25th, it all be zoned the same, or would this be higher zoning than proposed than it's proposed on the east side of Wetmore or on the other side of that alley between Wetmore and Colby?
This would extend the red color, which is the MU15
Gotcha.
up into this
Okay.
area. So it'd be kind of a finger of red.
Okay.
Most of these boundaries where you see a change from red to orange and orange to yellow are existing breakpoints in Metro Everett's kind of wedding cake that we kept. We may have changed the numbers, but the boundaries are existing.
And did you have a request to increase the zoning here?
Yes.
Was that right?
Yeah, that was a request.
Okay.
Well, at this point, I guess we have, we probably need to vote on that one then.
Yeah.
Okay, so is there any motion?
Yeah, you get the height. This is why we're getting rid of the height map.
I don't know where that, you'll have to get to the height map. That's beyond my level of competence.
Maybe while we look that up, I'll just help summarize. If council takes no action, what's in the staff draft documents that are under review would be the UR7 7 stories of height. However, the owner of the parcels approached council members and asked for this 15-story option. And so if you were to make a motion, it'd be to approve that staff fold in this mixed use 15 proposal into the document that's under review for public comment in the month of April. Additional review by the planning commission, who would then recommend it to you for your eventual adoption at the first meeting in June. So it's not an actual rezone, but it folds the analysis into the public conversation in the next, 2 months, basically.
Thank you. Perfect stalling. Okay, where you see
That's
yellow within the black outline that is Metro Everett, that's this. Where you see yellow, it is currently 4 floors and proposed 4 floors. Where you see this orange or goldenrod, currently 5 floors, proposed for 7. And in the red, currently 11 floors, proposed for that MU 15. So if we were to make this change, the current zoning would go from 5 to, instead of 7, 15.
Just one adjustment. Can we step back from 25th, the one lot,
Yes,
to make it a stair?
it
It is,
is.
okay. I
Yeah,
couldn't
so
tell
there
from
would
that.
be a 2 parcels of UR4
Step
between
up.
the school and this other properties.
Okay. Could I hear a motion on this one, on this particular item?
Yeah, I'll move on that. Thank
Right.
you. Yes.
Is there a second?
Second the motion?
Right.
And for the clerk, because we did some extra work after your meeting last week, so the motion is to approve staff moving forward with folding the 2506 to 2606 Wetmore to MU 15.
Thank you, John.
Right.
This will be separate from the property that's just to the east of the library that was often discussed with.
We
We'll do
approved that
separately.
already.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, that's good. Didn't we?
Yeah.
Okay, that's me, right. All right, any more discussion? Okay, clerk, please take the vote.
Vice President Zerlingo,
Yes.
Councilmember Bader,
No.
Councilmember Ryan,
No.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay, as far as moving forward with the rest of the plan, is there, at this point, our direction is to direct staff to move forward with, the current plans. Is there any other areas that we want to specifically, I guess, center on? Yeah,
Ben, question.
Councilman Domingo, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that was, I'm back to this just after spinning around on something else. From the standpoint of planning and your submission to the state and refining this, is there a benefit to some additional clarity on this and some time with the sense of the council positive on this, or do you want a specific motion with respect to the changes on 19th?
I think whatever gives the comfort that the council as a body is comfortable incorporating that into the state package. So if it's a series of head nods, if it is thumbs up. Yeah, this is not official and formal, and you will have to make that step later this year.
I think the last item was important to vote on because there were no votes, because it was clear that there were some folks that maybe at this point weren't supportive, although you're going to vote on all of it again at the very end, of course. If there's a desire, if there's a consensus that the 19th conversation has progressed and everybody's fine with that change being folded into the proposal, we're comfortable with that. But if you want to make a motion, that also makes it clean.
Well, for the sake of the sense of the council, then I will make that motion. If there's heartburn about it or difficulty, then we will have opportunity to refine.
And I guess asking legal, can we amend this later, or this motion is really more to put it on the the draft, but we can always change our minds later. Right now, it's to put on the draft.
This is like to help facilitate a good
Okay.
public process and conversation. So this ensures that it gets the staff working on it in the next couple months, and that the community's aware of it, instead of seeing 19th with I mean, honestly, like, it probably is a good process, right? Like, imagine somebody that opens this up and says, well, they want 15, this is what they want, 15 stories on 19th, but really what you've talked about, let's put that into the package. So it's this different proposal that you've heard about. And then they can speak with the planning commission, they can provide testimony there. They'll be able to submit comments in the month of April, and then at your later in May public hearing.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. Did we get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all right. Any more questions? Okay, so this is a motion and a second to put it on the draft plan for the state review. and for public comment.
Yes, and to put the proposal related to 19th Avenue Southeast and the SR 527 corridor.
Okay. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zarlingo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bader.
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes.
President Schwab.
Yes. Okay. All right, so do we have any other subjects or places that we need to center in on for today's discussion?
This is my sense. I have a sense that on the higher zones adjacent to lower zones, that unless Councilmember Bader, you found a bunch of time away from your work today to delve into that might need more conversation unless.
A little more though, in quick conversations with Yorick here just before the meeting, several of the ones I surfaced, I think there's rationale that they don't need to be, at least in my opinion, considered, but I do need a little more time with Yorick to either resolve some more of those or bring them back to the council. Thanks.
And that's fine. I mean, I think there is time to work through those and either bring that back on in mid-April. We have a briefing, whatever the third Monday is, or the Wednesday is, the 16th to 19th, something like that. On that date, there's a chance maybe by then to flesh that out, or even later. And then I don't know, on neighborhood commercial, you might want to.
That was
kind of
our
talk
next
through them
question,
A little bit
yeah.
more, or you might want to hold that for that April conversation or another meeting.
Yeah, just real quick, who brought that idea? Okay, could you maybe just talk a little bit comment about that? What your
Right.
thoughts were?
Exactly. So I mean, watching the YouTube video of last week's meeting, I think was pretty well summarized and understand. I think before moving forward, I had some minor technical questions. I think York did as well for Public Works as to why 100th or Walnut or Federal were not listed as arterials. I'd like to, if possible, like to have those answered before formally proposing that we limit neighborhood commercial to arterials. But I understand the urgency. If there's urgency to move, I understand.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think we're settled for now, and thank you for your hard work, and council, thank you for all your hard work. That concludes we have executive session. So let's plan on 2 minutes for transport, like break, and then 20 minutes executive session. Okay, we're back from executive session. Thank you for your patience. So we do have some action to consider, and I'll refer the language of our motions to City Attorney David Hall.
So the first matter is a workers' comp claim by retired Fire Captain Barry Pomeroy in the amount of $83,000.
Move to approve that settlement.
Second.
Okay, motion seconds are made. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zerlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes.
The next matter is also a workers' comp matter. Retired police officer Susanna Evanston in the amount of $475,000.
And I'll move we approve that settlement.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion seconds been made. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zerlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes.
And the third matter is settlement of a civil suit, an appeal brought by Friends of Phil Johnson Ballfield of the Everett Hearing Examiner's approval of the city's pallet shelter program on the former Cemex property at 200 Severs Ducey Road. The settlement would allow the city to operate this temporary shelter for a period of 2 years, which is what we were initially looking for.
Move to approve that settlement.
Second.
Okay, motion seconds made. Clerk, please take the roll.
Vice President Zerlingo?
Yes.
Councilmember Bader?
Yes.
Councilmember Ryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Tui?
Yes.
President Schwab?
Yes. With no further action, meeting is adjourned.